What is up, everybody? It's Pastor Bryan and Carmen. Hope you're having a great day. We are here with one of our very own, Andrea Cook. And, we've heard from many of you over the last few weeks as we've been checking in that one of the biggest stressors right now for you is the whole homeschooling thing. Many of you moms, especially, were not ready for that. We're not used to that, and you've run into some obstacles as you're trying to work from home and make sure your kids are still learning. And so we wanted to talk to an expert. And Andrea has a lot of background in both homeschooling and education, and so we thought we would do a quick interview with her. So Andrea, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Tim and I, he's the tall, bald guy in church. We sit in the front. We've been married about 17 years, and we just moved back to the Springs about a year ago. We have two little boys. Tyler, he's our oldest, and he's 10. He's in 4th/5th grade. Technically, he's in 4th grade, but he does some stuff 5th grade. And we have Hunter. He's in 2nd grade. He's 8 years old. He just had a birthday. So we adopted them about 5 years ago. So let me see. We've homeschooled them 4 years. They both did attend public school when they first moved in with us, and then for about a year. So that's kind of our schooling background with them and a little bit about our family. Professionally, I was in the Air Force about 10 years, and I got out. I finished my bachelor's in communications, and then I got a master's in teaching, and that was a licensure program. So when I finished that, I was able to take all my tests and get my teaching license. That was in the state of Virginia. I did this year transfer my license here to Colorado. So I'm a licensed elementary teacher here in the state of Colorado. And right now I'm working to finish up my doctorate in education, focusing on curriculum and instruction. So that's it. I think it's important to say, because I'm coming from both perspectives, personally as a homeschooling mom, and then also just a professional background too.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on for sure. So with that in mind, how do you handle the pressure and stress of your own busy schedule? You are in school and you do have stuff going on within your home and trying to keep a homeschool schedule. How do you manage all of that?
Yeah, it is just a lot of scheduling. Routine helps a ton. They're used to routine when they go to school, and so it really does help them a lot to, as much as you can, have a routine at home too, and then to be clear with those expectations with them. And I can go through that in a little bit with what I do as far as our routine goes, and then just, I guess, looking at the things that have to be accomplished during the day, and then just deciding what that's going to look like as best you can on a regular basis, and then just trying to stick to that as much as possible. For me, I'm like a very type A, scheduled. I plan, I prepare, but I try not to stick to like times too much, because I noticed when I was doing that, I wasn't giving the kids grace. I was getting very frustrated with them because I'm like, oh, we have to get done with math by 10 and we're not there yet. So I just do more of a flow that allows me to just kind of keep them in a routine. It enables us to get all of our things done for the day. But then, it also gives a little bit of flexibility, because you do have to give some flexibility. I mean, you have a crying baby, so you can't be like, stop crying, we have to do math. So, I think that's huge. Yeah.
So then, like, schedule is important. Our family, I think we definitely do better under a schedule,
right?
Looseness in it, because I am working, and so we do better with the schedule. But how did you like iron out, I guess, whatever schedule you have? Because for me, that's where I'm stuck. Like one day I think, okay, we're going to try it this way. And this is in my head. this schedule should work great. And then we get into it and it's like, well, that was a joke, you know, like there's no way this is going to work on a regular basis. So was it trial and error for you? Did you just kind of figure it out? You know, what did that look like for you?
It's always trial and error. And it's still, you know, our needs change every day, you know, and so I think, you know, if you see something's not working, thinking in the moment or reflecting back at the end of the day and saying, okay, it didn't work that way. What can I do to make it work or to fix? And then also being realistic. Like every year at the beginning of the year, I'm always like, I'm going to teach them Spanish and typing and all of these things. And in reality, I'm like, I'm writing a dissertation. I'm trying to teach 2 kids 2 different things. And we have all of the other things that we do too. And so I think it's important to be realistic and see like what has to get done. And then, you know, this is kind of a no-brainer, but like literally praying about it every single day. Like I wake up in the morning and like protect that time with the Lord and pray and ask him, like, let me just pick up the things today that you want me to pick up and let me not pick up the things that you wouldn't have me to touch today. Because I can get a little bit, I can overextend myself and then overextend the kids and become impatient with them, I suppose. But I think something too is having like standards for them, you know, like I don't allow them to wake up in the morning and get on like their iPads and do stuff like that. Like we get up and do you want me to go through that? What I do? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry, but I would love to hear your schedule.
Yeah. So in the morning we wake up and I go and have my quiet time. And I said that like I protect that time. When they were younger and they wanted to get up super early and like start their day loud and running around and you know how it is. We just said that's not what we're going to do. I just can't start my day like that. It's not going to work out well for anybody if I let them do that. So we say you can't get up until 7. And you can, of course, if you need something or if you have to go to the bathroom or something, of course that's okay. But they're not allowed like up until 7. And so, and if they see me, they can come having my quiet time. So they can come and sit with me. But they're not really to interrupt me. And it, you know, it's kind of neat because sometimes they'll, like the other day, Hunter went and got his Bible and he came and sat with me. You know, I didn't tell him to do that, but he just saw me doing it. So it's like a moment where, you know, you can model that kind of a habit. And they'll see that. So, you know, but they don't interrupt me. They know which activities they can do. Like sometimes they'll come in here and do crafts quietly, but they know not to interrupt me. And then we start breakfast. One of them showers and one of them stays down here. And that is one thing because they were bickering. One of them's a morning person and one of them's not. So they were bickering. So then I said, okay, well, why don't you just go shower and you stay down here. And so now we do that. And by the time the one that's showering comes down, he's fine and we're not bickering anymore. And so they're ready for breakfast. They eat. And then we have like morning kind of chores where, you know, they're brushing their teeth, they're getting dressed, they're making their beds, and they clean up their bathroom. I don't like all the toothpaste everywhere. So they clean up their bathroom and then take out trash if I want them to or whatever. I'm downstairs preparing like what they need to do for the day. And so I have, I don't know if you can see, I have this. And so it's an agenda for them.
Nice.
And so what I do is I write their stuff on the board. You may not have, like I have a little schoolroom. You may not have that. You may just, you know, anything that I say, it's good to just look at it and modify it for however it fits your family. But I write it down on the board and then they're color coded. Tyler's blue, Hunter's orange. So Tyler copies his work down for the day. And then Hunter's sheet, since he's in 2nd grade, he has it in a page protector. And so he just uses like a marker and writes on the same sheet every day. That way he's not really old enough to manage all of that on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So I just put it in a page protector, and every day he writes down the stuff that he has to do. And then they come downstairs and I talk to them about like, hey, you have anything unusual? Like, hey, you have a test tomorrow. You need to study for that today. Or, you know, I need to make sure that I ask you your comprehension questions today, or I have to give you your English lesson today, or anything that's out of the ordinary that I need them to know. I let them know that. And then they start working. They go through independently and do the things that they can do independently on their own. And we've worked on this for a while too. So if your kids aren't there, then that's normal, because you've only been doing this for like a couple of weeks. So you kind of have to train them to get there. But and then I go up, I finish getting ready, I come down, and we start like our morning time, our morning work, and that's our next like block of time. And so we have like a devotion time together. And right now we're reading in the Bible, we're just reading, going through Matthew. And usually they'll have a memory verse. They don't do it every week. It depends on if they have other memory work, or what other like tests they have, but we'll do that. They'll go through the books of the Bible, we'll pray together. And then we do science together. And so I give them their science lesson. We might have an activity that goes along with it. And I just, even though they're in different grades, I ask them questions at different levels, but the information is basically the same. And then we do a read aloud where I'm reading to them. And so I've been doing, there's this series, it's like Christian Heroes of the Faith. And so it's different people. Like right now we're doing Jim Elliot, we did George Mueller, there's all different people like Abraham Lincoln, and they love those stories. Actually, Hunter doesn't like to read, and they love them. They're very interesting. It's great because it talks about character. We can have discussions about character and things like that. So we do, and then for reading, it models like fluency for them, for your younger readers. And then you can do things to help them with comprehension. We call them like think alouds, where you're saying like, oh, wow, Jim is really, really stressed out right now. What do you think is going to happen? How do you think he's going to get through this problem? Or, you know, you can kind of phrase comprehension questions like that as you're reading. So that's really good to do with them. And then after that's our block together. And then we do kind of the one-on-one instruction. So the instruction that I have to have with Hunter, I do. The instruction that I have to have one-on-one with Tyler, I do. Or if they have questions. Also, that's the time where I've gone over their work from the previous day, and I make sure that they understand the things that they missed, so they don't miss it again, you know, today's work. And so usually by that time it's lunchtime. And so then I come up here and make lunch, and Hunter has been getting his work finished, by lunchtime. And if they work diligently, they can do that. And then sometimes Tyler still has a little bit left. But honestly, there's been times where if he's not motivated to get it done, he'll kind of just sit there and look around and maybe not dinner. Then after lunch, we will go on a walk. And then I don't give them free time where they get to decide what they get to do until after they finish their work. Like we go out and walk, or may do an activity, they can get exercise that way. But holding that free time with the screen time and the free play, that is such a motivator. I mean, they've gotten up before breakfast wanted to start their work because they want to hurry up and get done so they can play. So I would encourage people, if that's something that works for your kids, find that thing that motivates them to get it finished, because I'm sure that that's probably part of the frustration. And if they're getting the screen time in the morning and then you're calling them to go do their work and then they're having attitudes, that's probably why they're having attitudes, because they're getting that free time and they feel like you're taking it away from them, whereas if they know oh, I can do that, I'm free to do that as soon as I finish my work, it's a reward. So
where does your own time for your schoolwork fit into that, your own work?
After lunch. So after lunch and after we go on a walk, that's when I start my schoolwork. And like at lunchtime, I don't sit and eat with them. I eat breakfast with them and we eat dinner together as a family. But like at that point, I need a moment. So I go into the other room and eat my lunch after I finish making their lunch. I watch YouTube or do something that doesn't take any kind of brain work, and then chill for like 30 minutes or so while I eat my lunch, and then get them situated. And then I do my schoolwork. And in the beginning, it was super frustrating because they would come and interrupt every 5 seconds. Like I have one that like really needs attention, wants attention. And so whether he needs help or not. And like at this point, they've already had their instruction. They shouldn't need a lot of help. So I've kind of trained them to like this. I don't know, people might have opinions, but I don't care. I have trained them how to approach me during this time because I really struggle with focus, and it's not easy, the reading and all of the writing. I mean, I can spend 20 minutes on one sentence at this point in the editing and everything that I'm doing. And so I tell them, you need to not just come and running in and being like, Maya, I need help, and not pay attention to what's going on around you. So like as a teacher, we call it teach twos, where I would be like, is this a great way for somebody to approach you? And I come in acting crazy and, kind of model in an exaggerated way what they're doing to me, basically. And they're like, no, but it's a way that gets them to remember that that's not great. And so I make them like, you come and you stand there and wait for me to say, yes, I can see that you're there. I just need to finish my thought. And so, they'll stand there, and then I ask them, but I also say, first you need to try and problem solve. So spend about 5 minutes on it. If you're having, a question about your work, spend about 5 minutes on it. And if you're not getting it, maybe look back to another problem that was similar, see if you can figure it out that way. Otherwise, skip it. And then come to me at the end with all your questions, and then we can talk about it so that I'm not being constantly interrupted. So whatever that looks like for you, if there's, you may have to be online from 9 to 4 or whatever the time may be. So, you can almost think about it like professionalize it almost like, when you're in college, your professor has hours or a time period. If there's a time period, you can say, well, can you hold your questions until this, just teach them in that way. And Hunter's in second grade, he does it. So you can teach them to do that for sure. And it isn't perfect the first time. Like they still make mistakes when they do it. And I just gently remind them like, well, sometimes not so gently. Sometimes I get frustrated, but yeah, try to be gentle most of the
time. Thinking back to when you first started homeschooling, now you're a pro, you've got it down and all that seems like, but what's one thing that you wish you would have known then? So there are all these moms jumping into this now who are like, I feel like by the time I get this all figured out, I'm going to be back in the office. So like, what's one thing you wish you would have known then that you know now?
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard. I guess I thought it was going to be easy, but it is hard. It's harder to homeschool than it was to have my own class, for sure. But just, I think figuring out what your priorities are as a family. And to not, I guess, separate them, like not keep, I don't know what I'm trying to say, not try to keep them separate. Like this is school. This is, our family life. Like you're a mom, and prioritize that relationship. Like, your family priorities are more important than math. Like it's more important that we show them love and teach them about God, and try as much as possible to show them his traits in our families than it is that they learn that math lesson. Like it is important to hold them accountable for sure, and to do the work and be diligent. That's obviously, a biblical principle, but to just make sure to try to have those priorities come across even during the school days. Like that's not a separate thing from your family. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And so what then do you think, I mean, that sounds kind of like the answer to what I was about to ask about. Like what advice would you give parents who were thrown into this, who are trying to work, you know, and they have to be at their job, like during the same time that they're doing school, you know? And like, I know, like for me, I was trying to do my work and teach 2 different things at the same time. And it was like not working. And I have flexibility to where I can kind of I've been splitting my day like you, like I started doing school with them in the mornings, and then I do my work in the evening, like later into the evening, whatever. But there are some people that don't have that flexibility, you know, in their job. So like, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah. Don't try to, I guess, just relieve yourself of the expectations. You know, it's kind of like consistent with, you know, as moms, we feel guilty a lot, and just know, like, you don't have to feel guilty about it. Your attentions are going to be divided because, and the other thing is, like, I chose this, but even though you all didn't choose this, like, God definitely directs our steps. So while you maybe didn't choose it, and it's not necessarily like everybody's heart to homeschool, it's definitely God's heart for everybody at this time. And so I think to just remember that, and in remembering that, seriously, like, go to him if you're frustrated in the daytime, like however many times I do that during the day, and just say, God, what do you want me to do right now? I'm so split. I'm so divided. What do I pick up right now? And he'll give you strategies. I mean, I remember times feeling so frustrated because I didn't know how to help them. Even though I'm a teacher, I don't always know what to do to help them. And I don't always know what the problem is. But when I get frustrated, I surely don't get the answer, you know. But when I go to the Lord, he really does come through and give me the answer, you know. And don't be afraid to walk away. I've had to do that so many times, and there have been times when I felt frustrated and I've, you know, lost my patience and I've had to apologize. But the best times are when I don't do that, and when I remember, like, to walk away. I mean, there have even been times when I'm like, I am not feeling patient. I do not feel like I'm able to have self-control right now. I'm just going to go have a moment. Or where I'll say, I'm just going to pray for a moment. Everybody just give me a minute. You know, and take that moment. And I actually think it's really a good opportunity to model to them self-control and how to depend on the Lord, because we try to teach them that and we tell them that, but it means so much more when they see us doing that in the moment, when we're actually using our stuff and, you know, like having a moment. So like, don't be afraid to do that, and, you know, look to God and remember, you know, he has everybody in this moment for a reason. And just asking him, what do you want me to see? Like, help me to put on my spiritual eyes, help me to lay aside my carnal vision, and just help me to see spiritually what you want me to see right now, whether it be in reference to my kids learning, or where they're at in school, or something to do with our family or our relationship or our priorities. I mean, there's a million things I can think of that God would be trying to show us right now as Christian families. So I think just taking that moment and really just involving God in this, and not trying to replicate what they do in public school in your home, because your home isn't school.
That's great.
God resides here. He's here. The Holy Spirit leads us. And so even as you're doing your work and as you're teaching your kids, he'll guide you and lead you. You just have to invite him in in those moments. You know?
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I like what you were saying earlier about, you know, your morning time. It reminds me of something that we talked about within our ladies ministries a few years ago, but it was about waking up for your day instead of waking up to your day. You know, get up in time, you have time in the morning versus getting up and just jumping right into it, because there's no time to like calibrate or get ready for it. You're just kind of throwing yourself into it. And I know I've been guilty of that because I'm tired. I don't want to get up before I have to. And, but I think it sets a good precedence for like the rest of the day. And
well, and I think it's important to teach them there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries like that. I know what I can handle. And, it's just kind of showing them this is how relationships work. And, some people can't just get up in the morning and deal with all the crazy. I can't do that. And so like I have that boundary, and it protects our relationship when we have boundaries. And it's just teaching them that and showing them that.
Sorry.
That's so good. I have a question. The Bible stuff that you integrate into their day.
Yeah.
Is that part of your homeschooling curriculum, or is that just something that you're throwing in there?
Yeah. So I have Bible curriculum that I use, but I'm always like at the beginning of the year, the actual year, like January, I always kind of just pray about it and ask God, like, where do you want me to go? Am I going in the right direction? Do you want me to readjust? And so I had a Bible curriculum that I started with, and I can definitely direct people in that way if they want something like that, or any curriculum. I love curriculum. So any kind of curriculum, you can ask me those questions too. But I set that aside because I felt like God was wanting me to do more of a devotional style. And it was a lot of Old Testament type stuff. And I just really wanted to show them more Jesus life. So that's why we're in the New Testament. So I really just go through and read with them, and we talk about it. And I point things out to them, and they tell me what seems important to them. We just kind of have a devotion, a discussion. And then I might share things with them about my life if it applies. And then we pray. I try to tell them right now, like I'm trying to teach them to pray. So it's pretty basic. It's like, what are some things that you're thankful for? What are some things that we can pray for, some other people, or some needs that you might have? And we just kind of do it that way. And they each pray, and, we pray for our day and stuff like that. And then this has been really good, actually, the books of the Bible. There's a YouTube video that I've played for them, and we play it and they go through, and so now they can find the scripture in their Bibles, which is great. Because I know, like, when I was a kid, we had like the Wednesday night services where we did all the memory and all the stuff, and we realized they don't know some of that stuff that they would have gotten. So that's why I've started implementing some of that, the memory work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's really good. I love what you said about kind of taking the opportunity that God's given us. It's definitely his heart for everybody in this season. He's doing something in the midst of all of this. And I think for a lot of people, God is just wanting us to hit the reset button, right? And just say, hey, this is like in the hustle and bustle of just carting our kids to school and carting them to this and that and the other. Like, we forget to include him and teach them about his love for them. Yeah. And how they can know him. And this is such an opportunity to hit that reset button and let them know, hey, Jesus is a huge part of your day.
Yeah. And I think it's important. I mean, everybody, what you're doing right now, like, you're doing school at home, but my homeschool looks very different from what you all are doing. Like, I choose the curriculum that they use. So it's both boys don't use the same curriculum because they have different needs. And so I get to choose that. I get to choose how we progress, the pace. And if they're not understanding a concept, I can park it and we can just hone in on that concept. So I think a lot of what you're feeling frustrated with now maybe would be you're implementing someone else's plan. And that's hard. You didn't choose this plan. It's not just that, I didn't want to have them at home to teach them. It's you're, having to manage content that you didn't choose at a pace you didn't choose, at all. You didn't choose any of it. And so that looks very different than what homeschooling life looks like too. So that's important to remember too. So don't get like totally turned off by homeschool because this is so hard. Because I don't think homeschool is actually like, it's not like that. You would probably choose something different.
That's a great point. Well, we
Mhm.
really appreciate you taking some time with us, Andrea. And gosh,
Yeah.
your insights are awesome. I know a lot of people can benefit from what you just shared with us in the last 20 minutes or so. What we're going to do is post this on our social media channels, and we're going to invite people just to ask questions in the comments. Are you available to kind of take on their questions as they drop
Yeah,
them?
yeah, absolutely. Anything. If you need extra stuff to give them to do, anything. Yeah. Questions
Awesome.
about curriculum, questions about standards, or anything like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you
thanks
so
again for,
much.
yeah,
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
sure.